நான் அங்கே உட்காரேன்னா ஒரு வேணும். பிச்சை வர Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are doing the Four Fold Qualifications, Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. I want to make sure that this is on. And in that, we have discussed about the fourfold is Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shatka Sampatti or sixfold discipline, and Mumukshutvam or the desire for moksha. So we covered Viveka, Vairagya and Samadhi, Shatka Sampatti. That means the discrimination faculty, Viveka, Vairagya, dispassion, and the discipline that involves Shama, Dama and so on. And Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhanam. These are the 6 disciplines that are required to prepare the mind. In that, Samadhanam is mental focusing on the pursuit of moksha, or in the case of this, on the Shastra Vichara, on the inquiry of the truth. We have to keep the mind focused. It's essentially a meditative process, and as the mind, whenever the mind has gone out, you have to bring it back. That's how we have to refocus all the time. And this Arjuna asked a question in the Gita, Chanchalam mi manah Krishna pramadi balavadradam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoro sudushkaram. Hey Krishna, it's very difficult to control the mind because it is chanchalam. Chalam is it keeps running out all the time. So chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramadi balavadradam. It's like as though you're trying to control a storm. It's very difficult to control indeed. So Arjuna himself says it's very difficult to control. And Krishna says you are right, but it can be done. So it is essentially yato nischarati manas chanchalam astiram tatastato niyamya itatu atmanyeva shamnaye. So when yato nischarati, whenever the mind has gone out, actually when the mind has gone out, we are not even aware that mind has gone out because we also go along with the mind. That is the major problem in meditation. You sit there and mind goes from one thought to other thought. It jumps from the thought to thought like a monkey jumping from one tree to the other tree or one branch to the other branch without even coming down. So jumping from one thought to other thought, some connection between the two, and one end up all over the world. The mind travels all over the world and half an hour meditation is over. Why? Because mind jumps to thoughts that are sequenced, and this is called mind, the wandering mind. And how do I control it? So first thing is to recognize the mind has gone. So that itself is a great achievement in the meditation. If I once recognize, that means I am very vigilant and attentive. At least part of the mind is watching to make sure that the other part of the mind is also abiding in it. And when it discovers that the main part of the mind has gone out, then immediately yato nischarati manas chanchalam astitam. Whenever you have found that the mind has gone out, then and there bring it back to the cool in which you are involved in. This is true for any knowledge, because the mind, whenever runs out, it may go out, and we may mind will not be attentive to what's going on in front. No teaching, no learning will take place. Even though teacher may be teaching, even though my body is present and I am looking at the teacher, but the mind has gone somewhere else. So once I discover that the mind has gone out, it is important to bring it back to the seat of meditation. So samadhanam is the bringing back to the locus on that and keep the mind in that abiding. So atma buddhihi nischalatvam, where on the source itself we have to keep the mind, or brahmani or atmani, in either it's a brahman or in this on the self, we have to keep the mind focused, and that is essentially the samadhanam also. So this sixfold discipline is prerequisite for entering into the intense education of the Shastras. And the final one is the fourth qualifications. So the discrimination, dispassion and discipline. These are the three: Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shatka, Sampatti. These are the three, and the fourth one is called Mumukshutvam. That means the entire desire and the extreme desire or intense desire for liberation. That becomes an important. So essentially, mumukshatvam is ahankaradi dehantan, says bandhan ajnana kalpitaha, so swarupa bodhena moktum ichha mumukshuta. In the Viveka Chudamani, in the sloka 28, says ahankaradi dehantan bandhan ajnana kalpitaha, so swarupa bodhena moktum ichha mumukshuta. So that intense desire for liberation comes with ahankaradi. This is aham. This is essentially from the ahankara or from the ego, and dehantan on the concept of I am the body and so on. Bandhan ajnana kalpitaha are all is due to the ajnanam, due to the ignorance. They are born out of ignorance, and therefore I had to reconcentrate from these, because they are naturally, mind is going there, and I had to withdraw the mind from those. And so swarupa bodhena, what is the nature of myself, and what is the nature of myself? Who am I? What is my nature? And also what is the nature of the world? And what is the relation between me and the world? And that includes all the swarupam, because my swarupam is anantam. Anantam means it includes everything also, including the world also. So swaswarupa, swaswarupa avabodhena, so moktum ichha. So desire to know is moksha, is the liberation, is essentially what is being defined as mumukshutvam or mokshata. Means mumukshata, I want intense desire to liberate. As we discussed, there are three types of qualification of students depending upon how much my desire is intense. And one, the uttama, madhyama and the adhama are the lowest one. So these are the stages of the mind. Depending upon the mental evolution, one can classify. The one who has intense desire, and automatically all other things come into picture. And essentially the major factors that are for the moksha, the Viveka Chudamani says, is controlling the senses and detachment, the vairagyam, so the discipline and vairagyam, and says even the Guru's grace is also important in order to get the intense desire. I don't know, many people are familiar. This Shankaracharya had the four primary disciples, and one of them was a Totakacharya, and he was not scholar, and but he was having a intense desire to to serve, to know. At the same time, he was having a way, serving the master with all the devotion. So therefore, Acharya's grace is important, and this is an example where Shankara recognizes the Totaka Acharya's devotion to his teacher, while all other students says, why are you waiting for him? He doesn't understand anyway. Let's continue with the class. Then Shankara says, these people are arrogant a little bit, and he blesses the Totaka Acharya, and Totaka Acharya, who was really washing the clothes of Shankara, comes running and falls in the feet of Shankara and chants essentially Totaka Ashtakam, which is the famous Vedantic lessons that we can learn also. So that means the Guru's grace is also important to fructify the desire for moksha also. So essentially, Shankara defines this in the Viveka Chodamani. So we are taking the sloka 29. He says, Vairagyam cha mumukshutvam tivram yasyatu vidyate. So tasmin eva arthavantasyahu palavantaha shamadayaha. The one who has vairagyam and mumukshutvam. This is tivram, that means one who has the intense desire for moksha, desire for liberation, and also detachment for everything else, for sense objects. And if it is intense enough, then all other things, qualifications will come automatically. Tasmin yeva arthavantasyaha palavantaha shamadayaha shamadama, all the other things automatically will follow. One have an intense desire and ready to give up all the vairagyam is there, then automatically everything else will, because he is ready to concentrate, shamadama, uparama, tichicha, all things will come automatically. Therefore, the intensity of these things become very important. So that is all the fourfold qualifications have been defined. Then Shankara goes into the details of you need a bhakti also, devotion. So we'll dwell into this exactly what is bhakti also. And Shankara defines one way the bhakti. But before we go into the definition of how Advaita defines a bhakti, let's look at the other aspects of bhakti involved. So if you go to the either Visishta Advaita or Advaita, says they follow essentially the definition of what bhakti is. There is a Navavidha bhakti. This is essentially in the literature. This is all bhakti towards is Saguna Brahma, the one who, the devotion or towards the Lord who is of with all the attributes. And the Ramanuja, Bhagavan Ramana says, is what kind of attributes? He is Ananta Kalyana Gunashrayam. He has infinite attributes, infinite and auspicious attributes. Ananta Kalyana Gunam. And each Kalyana Gunam, each auspicious quality is also Anantam. So therefore, compassion, everything else automatically is a part of the Lord's Ananta Kalyana, auspicious qualities. And that is the Lord. And therefore, what kind of bhakti is involved? Therefore, it is called Navavidha Bhakti. Ninefold bhakti has been described by Valmiki also in Ramayana. And here most of the Navavidha Bhakti according to the Bhagavatam is Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, and the Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, and Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Shravanam is listening to the stories of the Lord itself. Kirtanam is singing the glories of the Lord. And Smaranam, constant memory of the teaching or memory of the Lord form as well as his Ananta Kalyana Gunam. And Padasevanam, serving his feet. And Archanam, doing the puja, whether it is the Vihita puja or in some form of prayers to the Lord. And Vandanam, putting namaskaram, bowing down, that means humility in part of this one. Dasyam, service to the teacher. And not only service to the teacher, not only the Bhagavad Dasyam, even Bhagavatas also. That means serving the devotees of the Lord also becomes serving the Lord himself. And Sakhyam as taking the Lord himself as a friend, and Atmanivedanam. Atmanivedanam is complete surrenderings of oneself. It's called Saranagati. All are essential parts of the ninefold bhakti. In the Ramayana, when Rama and Lakshmana go to Shabari, Shabari requests, please teach me, you have come as a teacher, please teach me about bhakti, because Shabari is very incarnation of the bhakti itself, and she wants official teaching as a teacher, and so that I am learning from a teacher, and therefore she wanted to learn from Rama what is the bhakti of the devotion itself. In that Valmiki Ramayana is also defined the ninefold, and there it is, number one, satsang, that means association with the wise people and listening to my stories, that is the second one, and service to the teacher, and the kirtanam, glorifying the Lord, and japam, chanting the name of the Lord. So name of the Lord in fact is more powerful than even form of the Lord also, and that is Sri Rama Rama Rameti Namo Rami Namo Rami Namo Nami. So it says in the Vishnu Sahasranama, so Ramanamam is glorified, and it is equivalent to all chanting of thousands names of the Lord itself, and japa and dharmic way of living itself throughout my life when I am dealing with the world. That means essentially controlling the senses and with selfishness and a noble character also. Essentially having a Daivi Sampatti that the Krishna talks about. And the seventh one is the seeing the Lord's manifestations everywhere and worshipping my own devotees. This is in the Kulashekara Alvar, I don't know how many people are familiar. Kulashekara Alvar, he wrote a Mukunda Mala, one of the Alvars, 12 Alvars of the Visishtadvaita. In that Mukunda Mala, essentially he says Majjanmana Palabidam Madhukaitavare Mat Prarthaniya Madanugdava Eshaeva Tad Brutya Paricharaka Brutyasya Brutya Itibam Swarlokanada. I want to be servant of a servant. So I am ready to serve all your devotees essentially. Let me be servant of you. Because serving the Lord is much easier compared to servant of the servant of the Lord. So in Lakshmana was serving the Lord directly, whereas the Shatrugna was serving Bharata, who is a servant of the Lord. So it is that's much more difficult, and that is emphasized in fact as serving not only Bhagavata Seva is also emphasized as a part of the bhakti, and not to find fault with anyone else and contented with one own self is the eighth one, and the ninth one is surrenderance, Saranagati towards the feet of the Lord. We already discussed in the Visishtadvaita, there are Marjalanyayam and Markatakanyayam, how a baby cat or kitten surrenders to the mother. Once you surrender, it is the mother's responsibility to take care of the baby. Whereas in the case of a baby monkey, it holds on to the mother. Mother doesn't do. It is the responsibility of the child to hold on to the Lord. Therefore, holding on to the feet of the Lord all the time so that the mind doesn't run away from the Lord has to be recognized. And these are the Navavida Bhakti. And the one who has essentially have that bhakti is what is qualified, where those who have it, once we have surrendered, he says, I take care of the moksha. That is the promise according to this one. So how does he take care? Then is moksha something that I can gain or somebody can give it? This is also to be understood. But according to Advaita philosophy, says in the Shankara, in the Viveka Chudamani, says what is exactly is bhakti is defined there. Moksha karana samagyam. This is in the Viveka Chudamani. Moksha karana samagyam bhaktireva gariyasi. Says of all the paths for moksha liberation, what is the supreme? is bhakti. Bhakti, devotion itself is most important. Bhakti Reva is the highest path for that. So we thought Shankara is going to define as the jnanam is the highest, but in the statement he says moksha karana samajnam bhakti reva gariyasi. It is the supreme. But what is that bhakti? It's also defined. Swaswarupa anusandhanam bhaktirich abhidiyate. So what is bhakti? Swaswarupa anusandhanam. Essentially, continuous contemplation of one's own swarupam, on one's own nature is bhakti. Bhakti reva, bhakti iti abhidiyate. That's what is bhakti. Or it also says swatma tattva anusandhanam bhaktirit apare jagahu. Swatma tattvam, the truth about one's own self, and anusandhanam, contemplation on the truth of one's own self. Who am I? What exactly I am? And understanding that, and constant contemplation on the nature of my own self, swarupam, is bhakti iti aparejago. Other people say this is the bhakti. Means other Vedantins, Advaita Vedantins say this is bhakti. So what is bhakti? Devotion to one's own self. The self that I am is the self in all, has to be understood. So sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani cha atmani. So in the Gita 6th chapter, Krishna defines as yomam pachyati sarvasya sarvancha mai pasyati tasya aham na pranasyami satame na pranasyati. Yomam pasyati sarvatra. So the bhakta is one who sees the Lord everywhere. Yomam pasyati sarvatra, everywhere. Sarvancha mai pasyati, and everything is in me only. That one can never be away from me, because everything is me only he sees, so he can never be away from me. That's how from the bhakti point he defines, and the same thing from the jnana point is sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani cha atmani. All sarva bhutastam atmanam, all beings are in me only, and I am in all beings. So in the self is the self in all. That understanding is also same as from the bhakti point. Here the emphasis is the jnana aspect. So swarupa anusandhanam bhakti iti abhidiyate, and that bhakti becomes important. So the devotion involves devotion towards higher. Love for the God is what we call devotion, and there is a Narada Bhakti Sutras whole defining the nature of bhakti from different angles. But here bhakti is devotion to higher, where the higher is something where my mind gets purified, is devotion to the love for the higher is called devotion, and love for the lower is called lust. Therefore we are falling in love. When we fall, that is, we are going down, our mind gets agitated, restless, and we lose sleep, we lose all that. That's going love towards the lower. Whereas we raise in the devotion, because the raising towards higher, and higher is the one that makes our mind calm and quiet and peaceful, and therefore such a mind is available for the knowledge. So bhakti also becomes one of the ingredients as a part of the sadhana chatushtayam, that's how you develop the mumukshutvam also. So with that, we'll stop here. We'll continue after this in terms of what should be done with those 4 qualifications. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Namah.